Welcome to the Digital Marketing Insights podcast, brought to you by Brightside Digital.
Hi everyone, welcome to the show. I'm delighted to say I have Fintan here today, who's the founder of Simzolearn. Fintan, how are you doing?
Good, Tom. Good. Thanks very much for having me here today. Delighted to be here. Really looking excited now to speak with you.
It's an absolute pleasure, and yeah, it's so good to have you on, Fintan. Let's start off the show just for you to tell everyone a little bit about yourself, what you're doing now, and your career to date, please, buddy.
Yeah, sure. I guess I started in digital marketing way back when I was in college. I did a commerce degree, and at the time I started kind of experimenting with Google Ads. So that is not exactly yesterday. That's about 18 years ago at this stage. And then in my mid-20s, I set up a small agency where I worked with a couple of companies. And I joined an organization called the Digital Marketing Institute. So that organization is now the global standard for digital marketing certification. They're based here in Dublin, Ireland. When I joined, there was just a very small team of us, around, I think it was 8 people in the office. And I spent 6.5 years with the organization, and it was a phenomenal time. We saw incredible growth. When I left it, I was a manager responsible for the UK and Irish markets. And again, those markets saw a lot of growth as well. And following that, then I went to work as Chief Revenue Officer for an organization called LearnSignal. So LearnSignal provides online tuition for finance and accountancy students, and they have a subscription-based model, and they have students in about 150 countries. So I spent 2.5 years there, and then during COVID, I decided to do an MBA. And I finished that 12 months ago, and since then I've actually just set up my own business called Simzolearn.com. And the goal of the company is to provide very sophisticated digital marketing simulation platforms, a digital marketing simulation to universities and business schools. So we've just kicked off. Our website has just gone live last week, and so that's where I am at the moment. So
Such an exciting time, and such a good time to have you on the show as well, because we can go through the intricacies of that as well. What I'd like you to start off by talking about, though, is what is your comfort zone in digital? Like, what would you see as your main strength in digital marketing or digital space?
Yeah, I suppose if it was to look at specific channels, I guess I started with Google Ads all those years ago, and this week I've been looking at it very much for the new venture, to be honest with you. So I've been kind of very much immersed in it. It's always a platform that fascinated me based on the, I suppose, potential reach, and the fact that you can create a campaign and have it launched pretty much immediately and be targeting customers in any part of the world. So a lot of my experience would be within Google Ads. In my previous role in LearnSignal, I guess I oversaw a lot of channels. We would have had specialists who would have managed, content generation, paid media as well, analytics, social media marketing, posts, etc. So I guess in the last couple of years, I very much have been kind of taking a role around, I suppose, overseeing the intricacies of these campaigns and making sure that we're hitting specific performance metrics. But yeah, look, Google Ads would be a big one. I also am fascinated by email marketing. I think it's probably one of the oldest channels in digital marketing and still one of the most effective. And I think a big part of email marketing is the whole area of buying psychology and really understanding what your customer is about, their core motivations behind why they might buy your product, their problems, and how your value proposition can actually address the issues that they're having. So for me, creating emails, even some content, it's a lot more than just, I suppose, writing up content. It's when you really kind of take the time to explore your customer and understand, again, their motivations, it can really help guide you in terms of producing content that makes a difference.
That's brilliant. And if you want to, shall we focus mainly on your new venture at the moment? Like, suppose off the top of my head, someone that's been in Google Ads 18 years, over a decade ago, to where it is now, like, it's chalk and cheese. Like, it's definitely more simplified. There's a lot of elements, especially with the kind of basic kind of what would you call that, face of the system now, and then you have obviously the more advanced areas. But have you seen any opportunities revisiting that? And, you know, for our listeners, is there anything you'd recommend in the new modern Google Ads setup?
I suppose one area that really fascinates me is the auction insights and the different competitor metrics that there's greater visibility around now. I mean, I don't think they really existed back when I first started looking at Google Ads, but it just gives you a very comprehensive understanding of the marketplace, just in terms of the action that's happening online, and the volume of activity. So those insights are particularly fascinating because you know, keeping abreast of your competition and kind of really understanding your competition is critical to making a difference when it comes to business growth. So those insights that Google Ads provide now are fascinating. It's definitely something I'd recommend going in and having a look at. Not just, I suppose, to kind of understand your own performance, but to get a bigger picture of the marketplace itself and what your competitors are doing. So I mean, that's probably my favorite feature. I think, you know, a lot of the bidding functionality has become kind of, I guess, for Google's term, smart bidding. So there's a lot less manual input if you'd like it that way. I think what's important with Google Ads, and this hasn't changed over 18 years, is just continuous optimization. It's really going in and understanding the key performance metrics that are important to you as a business, and then monitoring them on an ongoing basis. And second to that then is obviously just continuously split testing and taking the time to actually continuously push the boundaries in terms of what you can do with Google Ads as a business. So that is pivotal. I mean, over my time as well with different businesses, you know, we would have looked at the analytics significantly across the board. And for many business, in terms of tying up the data, the different points across different data platforms is certainly a challenge. And I think when it comes to Google Ads and Google Analytics, having that infrastructure in place where you can kind of confidently go in and see, well, you know, what keywords, what campaigns are actually driving meaningful results for the business is imperative as well. And I think I'm going off on a slight tangent now, but you know, when you talk about getting new business through Google Ads, I heard a great phrase recently, which kind of said that, you know, in today's modern economy, you don't start selling until actually you acquire your customer. And the basis of that was to do with, of course, retention. But also, I really genuinely believe we're living in more of an informed economy than ever, where customers are talking to each other. And the whole idea of customer centricity now is actually one area that I'm very excited about. And, you know, really understanding the customer's journey, again, going back to kind of their motivations and how they're engaging with your product is more important than ever. As a business, I think there's only certain things you can do to actually kind of monitor that. Of course, you can look at hard data, but obviously speaking to customers as well is important. But I think from the off, Google Ads gives you some vital data to really understand your customer. And as you go on in terms of I suppose the lifetime of that customer itself, I mean, you might look at some remarketing campaigns down the future to keep those customers engaged. So Google Ads plays a big role as far as I'm concerned, more so than just acquiring the customer initially. There's a lot of potential then in terms of how you can use the platform to actually maximize the lifetime value of customers.
Yeah, completely agree. And just to throw it out there, obviously, you've got a new site. It's clear you've spent the first week or so probably doing setting up on search console, getting your Google Ads ready, getting your tracking right for Google Analytics or GA4 now. But then, are you going to consider the Bing side of things? Do you think you'll do Bing ads and the Bing webmaster tools and the setup? I know it's a smaller market, but it traditionally has a much better CPA. Will that be something that you'll focus on and try and optimize for as well?
Definitely. So I think, like, you know, you talk about taking a very comprehensive kind of approach, and a rounded approach to digital marketing. Like we want to look at all the different paid channels and really understand what's going to drive the most value. For us, you know, it's not about kind of getting the lowest cost per click or the lowest cost per acquisition. It's about getting an acceptable cost per acquisition. In my experience, Tom, as well, you know, Bing does bring in a lower cost per acquisition, but the volume might not be as great. But I think, you know, Don't ask me now, but some of the stats on Bing suggest that there's certain parts of the world where it's very, very common. Some people have it as their default browser as well within their work environment. So there is definitely a lot of opportunity. From our perspective, we will simply be looking at it and go, right, we want to test this platform and we want to understand what's happening on the platform and the volume levels. If we get as far as getting a kind of a solid CPA, I mean, that just kind of lays the foundations then in terms of bringing that platform in on a more longer term basis. But it is something that we will be looking at. Yeah.
Brilliant. And to look at maybe some of your career previously, is there any campaign or something you did that was really successful and you were really proud of, something maybe in your previous experience?
I guess when I was in college, I signed up for some affiliate marketing courses and I ran Google Ads. And I remember in college getting a few £100 for a few months every month, which was nice. And I think that kind of perked my interest. I think when it comes to being proud of the work, I guess I would have worked with a lot of clients down through the years, and I guess your satisfaction is obviously very much dependent on them being happy. The journey right now in terms of setting up a site, the website that we have live right now at Simzolearn, I mean, that process began last March, and it began with just conducting a range of different market research initiatives. So like we spoke with marketing professors, we ran surveys, we spoke with students. I spoke with some people in the digital marketing world as well, just in relation to maybe marketing a business like this. And I guess that all came to fruition in a way last week when we put the website live, because there's been a huge amount of thought and consideration gone into the layout of the website, which is absolutely critical when you talk about conversion rate optimization, just in terms of the content that you actually convey in the website, how it's laid out, what's above the fold, what are the credibility indicators, your use of language, is it persuasive, is it more informative? And in many cases, all of those elements come down to your customer and how they research online as well. I mean, if your customer comes online and they see some very specific persuasive language, they might actually shy away. But if you're working in an industry where kind of, the general buying psychology kind of revolves around, you sell by information, it's very, very important that your website reflects that. So our website, or the website that's live there at the moment, is phase 1. I guess I am very proud of that. Because for any business, for any entrepreneur, getting something live is a big, big challenge. And getting set up to the point where you can actually track the behavior of your users and drive traffic to your website as well. So it's early days, but I suppose, Tom, that's probably one of the big ones, if I'm being honest with you. And it's not a self-plug, okay? I'm very much aware it's a recent project, but yeah, it is something I'm particularly proud of. Like, obviously, my time at the Digital Marketing Institute was amazing too. Like in 6.5 years' time, we saw massive growth, and we helped thousands and thousands of people around the world upskill and get a certification in digital marketing. So that particular experience was very, very important for me personally, because I was just exposed to so much around the industry. I met some fantastic people, many of whom are still in my network today and helping me out. So yeah, I mean, I look back on that with great memories as well. And yeah.
What you mentioned there around your first time in affiliate marketing and getting money from Google, obviously with some kind of referral. What's your opinion on affiliate marketing at the moment? How do you think that's going? Do you think it's a died off market? It's kind of been replaced by this influencer market, or what's your opinion on the affiliate side of things nowadays?
I think it's a lot harder to make money than before. I think I don't know if you're insinuating that it has been replaced by influencer marketing, but Tom, I completely think it has. I guess not completely, but I mean, influencer marketing has come in and it's just changed the dynamic in terms of how people research online. I mean, I would also just look at affiliate marketing here as simply reselling a product. And I don't think that initiative has gone away, and there's a lot of companies who are doing it really, really well. But this idea of signing up for an organization and getting maybe a percentage of the sale without having that kind of meaningful relationship with the organization and thoroughly understand the market, it's extremely hard to make money. It's very, very, very hard. But again, I mean, if you work with a really good product and a really good company and you have established kind of specific go-to-market strategies, and you know what market you're going after, and you really understand the landscape that you're going to operate in, well, then you can make it work. I mean, I'm sure you're familiar, like making, the cost of keywords and cost per clicks in Google Ads over the last number of years has shot up, so the margins has obviously come down a lot for people who are primarily driving traffic through Google Ads. I think it's evolved massively. I think it's a more sophisticated market based on the fact that you have to have that granular level understanding of your user. Without it, you will not make money. Whereas back when I first started, it was, you could say it was something like the Wild West. The internet was, Google Ads specifically was very much in its infancy, and the cost per click was a lot cheaper. So the potential to make profit was a lot higher.
I was there at those days. I like the first, I think I was 15 years of age. We used to buy and sell domains as a business and a market. But yeah, I was interested to see what your thoughts were on the affiliate marketing side of things, because obviously it has changed, but there's still, a lot of people making really successful drop shipping websites and things like that you still hear of things. But I think especially for the Irish market, there's not enough people. It needs to have a lot of people in the sphere and a lot of businesses open-minded to giving away that margin for a sale in some way. And yeah, it does feel like it's been replaced by the influencer market.
I think as well, a lot of the greatest companies out there who are advertising really effectively are looking at these channels anyway. Any good digital marketing specialist who is working for an organization is trying to establish what's the most profitable channel for the business to actually generate sales, and even outside the most profitable channel, what's an acceptable return. And so I think, again, it's the industry has grown up massively, but companies, I think they're doing it in-house themselves more so than before. And I think the skills, people now are highly skilled in terms of what they're doing. A lot of people are highly skilled in terms of kind of researching the marketplace and understanding what are the best channels. And in previous years, those best channels were generally kind of engaged with by affiliates, essentially, and affiliates were getting good return. Whereas now I think that return is going in-house.
Yeah, over the time, there's been developments like Google Shopping and things like that. The landscape has kind of changed of where people find their products and stuff as well. So especially, something like Google Shopping, if someone knows the item they want but want to shop by price, it's almost instant that you can get the cheapest item on some kind of listing. My next question for you, Fintan, is there any particular softwares you use daily, weekly to improve your role?
Weekly, I guess HubSpot. I am a big advocate for HubSpot. I've used it for a number of years. I think not only does it kind of do what you want it to do in many ways, but like they're very quick to adapt and bring out new features. So I think there's great support mechanisms there in place for any marketer who's looking to kind of get an effective CRM in place. They also have pretty good AI functionality, specifically around content writing, which is really, really beneficial as well. So HubSpot would be one. I'm using Crisp Chat as well on my site. Crisp Chat is excellent, to be honest with you. I find, even as you use it, once you log onto a website and there is a chat functionality piece there, I mean, the research will show you that users convert, or websites convert at a higher rate when there is, both contact details, but also when there's a chat functionality there. During my time at the Digital Marketing Institute, I managed the chat functionality too, and I saw kind of at a bigger scale in terms of the impact it can have. There's some really good features to it, some automated features. So I mean, in terms of the management of it, especially if you're kind of starting off, the free version is pretty effective. And then as you scale, and again, as you understand more so in terms of how your users engage with the website, you can upgrade then, and there's some more kind of automatic functionality around conversation initiatives. So that's a tool I'd highly recommend. Also some great analytics on it. So again, you can just see where in the world your users are coming from, and even just the activity. So like, I mean, if you're looking at kind of narrowing it down and trying to get a return on investment on it, if you have a really good sophisticated system, you should be able to tie back, sales to users who engaged with chat on the website. So you can get some specific kind of measurement then in terms of how it contributes to sales. But yeah, crisp chat, I'd highly recommend, Tom.
Yeah, that's great advice. And is there anywhere you go, Fintan, for new information, new insights that keep you sharp, basically?
The Digital Marketing Institute.
You had to mention it. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
The Digital Marketing Institute, Neil Patel, I guess, he's been around for years. There's actually a company, an organization I come across recently called Reforge. It's run by a guy called Brian Balfour, but it's specifically focused towards growth marketing and business growth. And what they do actually, to make artifacts from real world cases and exercises available. So though these artifacts, they could be in the form of reports, planning documentation, they come from some of the world's biggest brands. So you can actually see like some of the initiatives that were ran in-house and some kind of, I guess it's primary don't want to say primary research or primary data, but they're definitely like the likes of presentations, reporting, presentations, go-to-market plans. There's a lot of really good things there on it. That's Reforge, Reforge. I'd highly suggest checking it out. I think kind of over the last couple of years, digital marketing is such a critical aspect to growth. But I guess my I suppose experience has elevated my thinking around business, and I very much think about growth marketing now. And of course, a big part of that is digital, but there are certain other parts of it as well, such as product development. They're all closely intertwined. Customer centricity again. So I'd highly suggest checking that out. It's reforge.com, I think it is, but it's run by a guy called Brian Balfour.
Love it. And what would you see as the biggest opportunity in digital business at the moment, or like the digital industry as a whole? What would you recommend as the biggest opportunity?
I would probably suggest something around user-generated content. I guess, a lot of people will talk about AI at the moment, and they have done rightly so over the last 12 months or so. But in my experience, and I guess my perspective on it, it can be a huge asset for efficiencies within business. So again, if you're looking to write emails or research blog ideas, etc., it's fantastic, and there's a lot more use cases to it. But I would suggest, I would kind of, I would say that a lot of the content available online is quite generic, quite vague. I've gone online, I've had a look at a lot of blog posts, and I guess somebody who's been working in digital marketing and is familiar with AI might be able to identify some of the kind of the AI generated content from a blog perspective. It's generally kind of vague content, and I think user generated content is going to become massive over the next couple of years. It's always been massive, but with AI now, I think customers are going to want to see more authenticity around the content that's being generated. They're going to want to learn more about the brand, the customer experiences. And I think that's where users are kind of really going to engage very well with brands, because I think they're just going to go to AI tools themselves to find out generic content or to get answers to their questions. But if you can talk about, your customer experiences, specific examples of how your customers are benefiting from your product, what your company is doing, in not just in terms of growth, but in terms of any aspect that's important to your customer, and that could be anything as wide as they're targeting, to corporate governance, to ESG, whatever that is. But I think it's going to be a significant part of some of the best campaigns going forward. Is this idea? Well, it's not an idea. It's user generated content. Is going to be more important than ever.
Yeah, and for anyone, I suppose, listening or watching, there is so many different ways to go about creating user-generated content. I think one of the big success stories over this summer was the Barbie movie and all the work they did around that. But if you looked at every cinema up and down the country, and they did it with elevators and stuff, they had their kind of the pop-up, take a photo in the kind of toy box, the Barbie kind of enclosed box, and that's all user generated content. It's to create FOMO. The people that are going to the cinema and watching the Barbie movie and dressing in the pink outfits and stuff, it's all a marketing thing. It's an interesting from a marketing point of view, because I think it's it's the first film I've heard of in a long time where the marketing budget was substantially bigger than the budget of the film. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now. Is I think a lot of good marketers are doubling down and saying these are all the elements we have to do this huge approach, and it's all around. People wanted to see the Barbie film not because of the film, but because of everyone else's actions around the film, and the people involved really promoting it. I still don't have a clue what the film's about, but it's more, I know how many people have seen it and the momentum behind it. And to touch on what you were saying around user generated content, how does a smaller business generate that? Do you have any recommendations around how they can go about doing that?
I think it's imperative that you've good relationships with your customers to the point where you can actually go to them and you can get even those testimonials, but at a deeper level than that, you can kind of flesh out kind of user stories. I think that is critical. I think, Tom, we spoke previously just around kind of a brand initiatives, brand awareness campaigns, where you simply kind of work with your customers, kind of post their customer experience, and you try and give them some initiative to kind of submit content that you can use, which will be based on user generated based level of content. But I think it's fundamental that you have good relationships with your customers, and I think it all starts at the acquisition stage. And then once you kind of onboard your customer, if you develop that relationship, they're more likely then to participate in any kind of brand awareness campaigns that you might want to run in the future. But yeah, just work and be really close with your customers on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, just love that.
One thing actually we're kind of working on is really understanding the key events in our customers. I don't want to say life, but let's say in a calendar year, what are the key events in our customers' journey that could impact their buy-in cycle? And in some cases, it might be getting approval for the product by superiors. It might be subject to kind of external examination. But again, it's really getting an understanding of all these key events. And I guess once you have an understanding of those key events, you can then shape your user-generated content strategy kind of around them, if that makes sense. I guess it just comes back to kind of really understanding your customer and what's important to them and the journeys that they go through on a day-to-day basis in terms of using your product.
And just the last one around this, do you think it's important, especially for smaller businesses, to put themselves out there as well? Directors, CEOs showing their faces, producing content. I know that's not UGC, but it's a starting point for creating, setting a tone of this is the kind of content that your business wants to drive and produce.
Yeah, definitely. I probably alluded to it in kind of a different way, but it's this idea of the relationship is critical more so than ever. I think people want to know who's behind the brand. And I think, senior leadership within a small company or even a business owner of a one-person operation needs to come out and engage with users, needs to put their face out there. It builds credibility. It really kind of gets momentum going as well. I don't think you can shy away from that right now, especially when you're a small company trying to put yourself out there. I think it's important that you make use of the tools and you understand your audiences to make sure that you're positioning your product and yourself in the marketplace correctly. And I think that's a process that you can refine over time. I don't think when you launch a business and you say, right, we're going to position our product like this, it just works straight away. And I'd also echo that in terms of how you as a business owner position yourself within the marketplace. I think as your business grows, you grow and you understand, well, what's important to your customers and what do I need to say and how can I support my customers and give them more value, essentially. So that comes from time. But yeah, I think you have to be out there now. I don't think it's acceptable really to kind of to hide as much. I think your website should have really good, transparent information about senior leadership, the people behind the company, the organization, what your mission is, people and the companies that you work with as well. And I think that's how the modern day consumer thinks. As I say, we're living in what you could describe as an informed economy where access to information now is It's 24/7. Customers can find out exactly, well, not exactly, but they can find out a huge amount of information around your company. And when it comes to buying decisions, it typically reverts around, the value proposition, credibility indicators. So I think for a company to be successful, you really need to kind of understand what your customer is thinking. And in many cases, they're thinking, well, I want to know who's behind the company, who are they working with, what's their product like, what are the reviews like. And I think companies then need to actually make sure that they're out in front of their customers and they're presenting that information even at the start of the buying process for the customer.
Brilliant answer. Fintan, unfortunately, I'm going to have to ask you the last question of the show, which is, if you could boil up one personality trait that you have yourself that you could pass on to others, what would it be?
Maybe curiosity, I think. But yeah, possibly curiosity. I think when it comes to digital marketing, you want to understand as much as you can, because if you fail in campaigns, you understand why. If campaigns are massively successful, you need to understand why as well. I think you need to be constantly asking questions. If something doesn't really make sense to you, you need to ask those questions and you need to be curious. And I think the more information you can accumulate over time, it positively impacts the campaigns that you're running. So, Tom, curiosity.
Love it. Curiosity is a brilliant answer. Yeah. Fintan, thanks so much for doing this interview. If anyone wants to find you, reach out to you, look into your company, how can they?
Simzolearn.com is one, or just get me on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. Thank you, Fintan. Thanks everyone for watching, listening, and everything else.